Good morning, Veritas scientists. Today is Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. We have our lesson today. We're going to start learning about different life cycles of different animals. So we're going to start today with something called metamorphosis, which we will talk about in a moment. But first, I want to go back to yesterday's question that I left you with on Monday, May 4th, 2020. We read about platypuses yesterday, and then the question here said to identify and list as many structural and behavioral adaptations as possible for platypuses. You must label them as either structural or behavioral adaptations. Okay, so we've learned a lot about this. That's why this is going to be the last time we talk about this for a little while. But I'm still going to probably come up with some videos that I find outside at the farm and at different places of cool structural and behavioral adaptations, because I think it's really fun and it's really interesting. So structural adaptations, you should know by now, have to do with the body parts, the structure of an animal, the body parts that it has that have allowed it to be able to survive. Okay, so for a platypus, which looks like this, they have like a duck's bill and like a beaver's tail and fur, and they live mostly in the water, but they also live on land as well. They dig burrows and live on land, and then they hunt in the water. Okay, so they live both on land and occasionally go to the water to hunt. Okay, so some structural adaptations is they have a duck-like bill, right? This helps them be able to hunt for food in the water. They have webbed feet. They have a broad, flat tail like a beaver, and that helps it to be able to steer. So as he's paddling with his front legs here, he's using his tail or the back legs to help steer around. Okay, they have a furry body for warmth, and it also repels water. So if they go swimming and they get out of the water, and it's like a duck, they don't have, and none of that water gets soaked into their fur like a dog would. It just rolls right off of it, kind of like a raincoat. So it repels water. They have webbed feet that pull back to release claws for walking. Okay, so since they need to swim, they have webbed feet, but then when they go on land, the claws actually, the webbing will pull back and then their claws come out. That way they can walk. All right, those claws also help them for digging and building burrows. They live in burrows on land. They lay eggs, which is not usual for a mammal, right? There's only two types of mammal in the world that lay eggs. Hi, Charlie. And this is one of them. Venomous stingers on feet. They have these little stingers on their heels that will deliver venom to anything that is attacking them. They have extra skin that covers their eyes and their ears when they are swimming, allowing them to swim. Their nostrils close to keep out water, and their lungs can hold their breath for 2 minutes, and that's a pretty long time to be able to hold your breath as a mammal. Okay, and the last one here, I put up here because I ran out of space. They don't have a stomach. I never knew that. But platypuses have adapted over many, many years, and they don't need a stomach, right? So if they had a stomach, picture yourself like trying to swim after you've eaten a meal, right? You're not supposed to swim for 30 minutes after you eat because that food is going to be stuck in your belly and it's going to be uncomfortable to swim. So over the years, they have actually adapted. They no longer have a stomach. So they eat the food and it goes directly into their intestines and starts getting broken down. Right? So that's very cool. They don't have one, and that is a structural adaptation that allows them to be able to continue hunting in the water even after they have just eaten. Now, some behavioral adaptations, also known as instincts, right? Behaviors that they are born knowing how to do. They don't need to learn them. They hunt underwater where there's less competition, right? The other beavers and other animals are hunting for food up on the ground, up on the land, right? And squirrels and everything else that is competing for food, right? So they can go underwater where there's not as much competition for the food. They pick up small rocks with its food and stores them in their cheek pouches to help break or mash up its food. So when they go down, they swim down to the bottom of the water, they grab some worms, they grab some other things that they're going to eat. They also pick up rocks and keep them in their cheek pockets. That way when they get up on land, if they caught something with a shell, like a snail or something with a hard shell, like a crab or a mussel, then they can smash it open using those rocks that they stored in their mouth. That's really cool. They dig 2 burrows. One is for nesting, one is for laying their eggs, and the other one is for resting. So they don't sleep where their eggs are nesting. They have one for their nest and a different one to sleep or rest in, which I thought is very interesting as well. They sweep their bill underwater 2 to 3 times per second. So one Mississippi, they go back and forth 3 times already, right? So they quickly move their bill back and forth, picking up food in electrical impulses. So if there are any predators around, they get these electrical impulses. They have these little sensors that allow them to be able to pick up these electrical impulses. But it's that behavior of sweeping their bill underwater that allows them to pick up the food and those impulses, right? They can feel the electricity coming off of predators, but also prey that they're trying to hunt. They can feel it with their since they do this sweeping motion with their bill. So very cool. Lots of different structural adaptations. Most of these came from the book we read yesterday, so most of those you probably were able to find. The behavioral ones for this were a little bit harder because the reading we did not have as many of those, so some of them I actually had to look up online. Okay, so today's lesson is about metamorphosis. So metamorphosis is a noun. It's the change of shape during an animal's life. Okay, so most of the time they are insects. Mostly insects go through metamorphosis, but there are some other animals, which we're going to talk about one of them today, that go through metamorphosis. So it's when they change shape throughout their life. So an example would be a caterpillar changes into a butterfly. So not like a human, where a human changes from a little human into an adult human. That's not what we mean by changing shape. They completely change into a different looking creature, right? So that is not an example of metamorphosis. That's just a regular, they are growing. Humans just grow and get bigger. That's not what we mean by change shape. We mean like this. Caterpillars literally change from looking like this into a beautiful butterfly, right? They completely change their shape. And another one that we're going to talk more about are tadpoles that change completely into a frog, right? A tadpole looks kind of like this, and they change into a frog. I'm not even going to try to draw a frog because you all know what a frog looks like, and I'm not a very good artist for that. I can try. Let's see. There's my frog with its feet. There we go. There's my frog. Okay, but they completely change shape. That is called complete metamorphosis because they completely go through this change over their life. Now we'll talk about something called incomplete metamorphosis. Just basically means that all they do is grow wings. So if you ever seen ants with wings, that ant went through something called an incomplete metamorphosis. All they do is grow wings. So the younger ant looks like an ant. That's my ant. And an adult ant also looks the same, like an ant. The only difference is it has wings. So that's incomplete metamorphosis. They don't completely change, they just change by growing wings. Okay, but we're focusing today on these complete metamorphoses where they go through a complete change like a caterpillar or a tadpole. Okay, so the 4 stages in metamorphosis, they start off as an egg, then they turn into a larva, then pupa, and the 4th and final stage is an adult. So if we think about a butterfly, right, an egg, they start off as an egg. The larva is the caterpillar form of them. When they are a pupa, that's called a cocoon. I forget if it's an A or a C. Or an A or an O. I think it's an O. Cocoon. And then the adult is completely different from the larva, and that is when it becomes a